Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So I wanted to do a special bonus video explaining Tower of Joy, Lyanna Stark, Jon Snow stuff. A lot of people were wondering why they didn't explain what was going on with Jon Snow's true father. So just careful for spoilers for everything that's happened on the TV show, and we're going to be digging into some of the book stuff that the TV show has done. So there are a couple big things happening when they do this big flashback. There are a couple big reasons why they did it this way. One, they wanted to show you who Jon Snow's mother was without explicitly explaining his father, because I think they're going to save that for a future season. So that's one of the biggest reasons why she's whispering to Ned and why it's all muffled, and people are like, did she say Jaehaerys? Is that Jon Snow's true name? Does he have a Targaryen name? And mysteriously, or maybe not so mysteriously, a lot of people were like, R plus L equals J means Robert plus Lyanna equals Jon. And you can kind of see all the book readers in the background summoning pictures of the little bear just going, nope, absolutely not. Rhaegar Targaryen plus Lyanna Stark equals Jon Snow. So it should come as no surprise that they don't want to give you all the information about Jon Snow's backstory right away. They just want to tease it out. Like when we first saw the Tower of Joy, we heard the woman scream, and the three-eyed raven stops Bran short before he can go see the rest of the scene till the end of the season. They wanted to withhold that information. Now, there's a very important reason that Bran is flashing back to Jon Snow's birth that I'll probably talk about in another video because that's Azor Ahai related. That's like a completely separate thing. This is mostly about Rhaegar Targaryen, his father. So this season was all about revealing who his true mother was, because remember, that was the first big tease we got in season 1. Is my mother still alive? Does she know about me? And Ned starts like, we'll talk about your mother the next time we meet. But that moment never came. Then we get to season 6 and we slowly start learning about Lyanna Stark. Father never talked about her. We see her showing off on a horse. We see Ned Stark getting ready to go to the Vale. That's basically where he was raised. He was raised by Jon Arryn with Robert Baratheon. That's where they became good friends. So then in the next flashback, we jump way forward in time to the very end of Robert's Rebellion. Rhaegar Targaryen has already died at the Battle of the Trident. Ned Stark shows up at the Tower of Joy in Dorne with Howland Reed and a couple of his other best men saying, "Where's my sister?" And we have two of the greatest Kingsguard in the realm. And if you've only been watching the show, you haven't read the books or the expanded material or anything like that, you don't really realize who these people are, like why it is they're wearing Targaryen sigils, what Kingsguard represent, and why they would be guarding all these people at the Tower of Joy. They kind of did a good job of that visually when Arthur Dayne just completely lays out all those people and then just narrowly gets killed by Howland Reed with a backstab. But these two people were part of Rhaegar Targaryen's personal Kingsguard. Arthur Dayne was one of his best friends. He was also the best, most deadly fighter in the kingdom. But what had happened is during Robert's Rebellion, Rhaegar had absconded with Lyanna Stark for unknown reasons. Like that's the part that they've still left out that they'll fill out in later seasons. But Rhaegar took her to the Tower of Joy with these Kingsguard, but then he was called away to fight in the Battle of the Trident. He's the crown prince, so he has to lead the force, like he was forced to leave the Tower of Joy. So in this flashback, Ned Stark has that comment where he's like, we looked for you at the Trident. That's where Rhaegar died, where Robert killed Rhaegar. Arthur Dayne says, we weren't there, we were here. So it's basically Arthur Dayne saying, had we been at the Battle of the Trident, we probably would have won, your side would have lost. So why would Rhaegar have left a weapon of mass destruction Kingsguard back here to guard Lyanna Stark? Probably because Kingsguard only guard future kings, as in the baby Jon Snow. So the idea is that the Kingsguard were at that tower not to protect Lyanna Stark, but there's a whole bunch of backstory that they have to fill in, a bunch of logic they have to fill before Jon Snow can become an official crown prince. So more backstory. Targaryens were known to take multiple wives, they wed brother to sister, they did all kinds of crazy marriage things. So what it seems like the books and the show is telling us is that Rhaegar married Lyanna Stark on the side while he was also married to Elia Martell, and then had this baby, Jon Snow, with her, making him another crown prince, not the firstborn crown prince to Rhaegar. Remember, Rhaegar had other children with Elia Martell, but they all died in the Siege of King's Landing at the end of Robert's Rebellion. So that's a whole lot of information. That says nothing about the secret name. Like, does he have a Targaryen name? Is it Jaehaerys? So naturally, the TV show would want to save some of those big reveals, explaining those things, for future seasons. So we'll probably continue to see this story play out in Bran flashbacks. And what it effectively is like a Romeo and Juliet type story told in past tense. So you get all these pieces of information, like Littlefinger tells Sansa about how Rhaegar was in love with Lyanna Stark crowned her at the tourney of Harrenhal, that will probably be one of the big flashbacks that we see in future seasons. So all these flashbacks share something in common. They tell the story of Robert's Rebellion, Lyanna Stark, Ned Stark, Jon Snow, and Rhaegar Targaryen, but we haven't seen Rhaegar Targaryen at all yet. Because, like I said, this season was more about revealing who Jon Snow's mother was. I think future seasons will reveal his father. So flashbacks to hype in the future, tourney at Harrenhal, Night of the Laughing Tree, which is kind of a Lyanna Stark moment, and then the Battle of the Trident. The Battle of the Trident was basically the moment of Rhaegar's death. So it's basically giving you Romeo, Juliet, Game of Thrones in flashbacks. But we've got 2 more seasons to fill that out at least, so yay for flashbacks, yay for Secret Targaryen Jon Snow. But the other big thing that HBO did on its Making Game of Thrones website, like this is an official image, it shows character relationships like who's a mother, who's a friend, and it shows Rhaegar Targaryen is Jon Snow's father. So if you've been reading the books, you've probably thought this for a long time, but if you've only watched the TV show, then you've only just started to get clues. So I totally understand if you didn't really understand the Rhaegar part of this, or why they didn't show who his father was. They want to save that information for future season and show it to you visually, like they showed the Jon Snow baby transition. So whatever ends up happening, it'll be very cinematic. I can't wait to see a Tourney of Harrenhal flashback. I will be a little upset if they skip over that. Usually the big moments that they talk about, characters talk about something really big happening, they show you in flashback. Like we heard Jaime's story about what the Mad King tried to do to King's Landing, burn it down with wildfire. Then 3 seasons later, we finally get to see it in a flashback. So if a character has told a story about something happening in the past, like Littlefinger talking about the Tourney of Harrenhal, I think that means that the show is going to pay that off. But about the name, the reason that people think that Jon Snow's name might be Jaehaerys, because he would be half Targaryen, and re-listening to this moment, people have said it sounds like a J sound. So the reason why people are like, maybe his name is Jaehaerys, is because there's a certain naming scheme with kings in the past that repeats itself. Like Daenerys' father is called the Mad King. There's Aegon the Conqueror, who Daenerys' story is kind of mirroring right now. There was Baelor the Blessed, and then there was Jaehaerys the Wise. The king that came before him was called Maegor the Cruel, who sounds a lot like the Mad King. So a lot of people were like, maybe George R. Martin intended this, to be cyclical in this way, wherein Rhaegar has a baby, and recognizing that his father is a terrible king, wants to get rid of him, and maybe Rhaegar named Jon Snow Jaehaerys as a way to instill his hope for the future in him, like the new Jaehaerys the Wise, following Maegor the Cruel. But obviously it didn't go that way. But don't you think it's interesting now that Jon Snow has become a king in his own right through his own actions, rather than just by birth? Like he's been named king despite being a bastard by all these people in the north. So really the show is just telling you that Jon Snow is a very special person, which you already knew. But there's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about depending on the new flashbacks that they do in future seasons, like the fact that Rhaegar was trying to depose the Mad King using a great council that was all part of a plan involving the tourney at Harrenhal. So not only is the tourney of Harrenhal like a really big Lyanna Stark, Rhaegar Targaryen moment, there's also a lot of political things that were happening at that, so that's why I think that'll be one of the future flashbacks. But let me know in the comments, how long do you think the show will wait before we see Rhaegar Targaryen in a flashback? Just listen for casting notes for an actor who is very handsome, who can sing while talking, because Rhaegar was like a big singer. He was kind of like a bard who was really good with a sword. So we need someone who's super charismatic, who can sing while he's walking around, and is a good enough fighter to beat everyone else in the realm in a giant tournament, because Rhaegar won the Tourney of Harrenhal, and almost the entire realm was there. So it's funny how when you pick up with the show, you hear the Targaryens and they're supposed to be really evil, but then because of all these flashbacks and because of Daenerys, you know that it's not that simple. History is always more complicated than what people make it seem. That's kind of a Littlefinger idea. Like Littlefinger is the one giving Sansa this information. Littlefinger, also a very complicated person. Not really evil, but not a good person either. So when does everyone feel like we're finally going to see Rhaegar Targaryen? My hope is that we see it relatively early in Season 7, but they could also save that, like they saved the Lyanna Stark, Jon Snow mother reveal for the very end of Season 6. They could do the same thing with Rhaegar for Season 7. But of course, the show will eventually show you who Jon Snow's father is. It'll be very explicit, like, oh, this is very clearly his father, he and Lyanna Stark were very clearly in love, and then we also have this War for the Dawn. That's kind of like a Season 8 thing. I feel like we're getting the information on Jon Snow's family first, then we'll get larger War for the Dawn context. So we learn who his mother is, then we'll learn about his father, then we'll learn why people think that he's a prophecy child, the Azor Ahai child, born under the bleeding star. But that's all stuff for future videos, so we'll have all kinds of bonus videos, and we also have to talk a lot about Cersei. Cersei is going to be so much fun in future seasons. So a lot of Cersei, Azor Ahai, Jon Snow, Lyanna Stark, we can keep talking about them all summer. So giveaway time. Congratulations to this week's giveaway winner, Steve Wonders. You won a $20 Amazon gift card. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. That's just on the About page. So Q&A just postponed until tomorrow. So I will do my Q&A tomorrow, and there is a new round of the giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber, leave a comment on this video. Just a whole bunch of Game of Thrones giveaways this week because I'm so happy with the way the season went down. So get hype. So while you guys wait for me to